In this video, we're going to show you how to deal with cutting the scrap off of your nested project. As you can see, I have a simple little nest here, and what I'd like to do is cut my scrap piece so that it can be reused in other operations later. Today, to do that, the easiest way is to create a profile and just cut that profile. So here's what we're going to do. To start with, I'm going to go to my curves, and we're going to do a couple things actually. I'm going to teach you how to use sketch lines to do this, but as you can see, my sketch line right now is the size of the would-be plane boundary. So really the first thing that we want to do is we want to modify our template to adjust this. Okay? So let's do that first. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my template. I'll load it this way. I'll just resave it then. And what I want to do is go in here to File Properties, and set my coordinate system, and let me just pan this over, set my default coordinate system size to be much larger. So for example, I'm going to say 100 inches there for my table length. For my Y minimum, I'll say -10 just so it's bigger, and here we'll say is 60. Why not? Okay? And what that's going to do is set the size of new coordinate systems borders. So for example, if I go and create a new coordinate system here, and I just put it right there, and I set it current, you can see that the border here has gotten quite big. And what that's going to allow us to do then is, when I go to create a sketch line, is have a very large sketch line to deal with. Okay? Perfect. So I'm going to switch back to the absolute. We'll delete this one because we don't want it in our template. And I'm going to go ahead and save this back into my template directory. So we'll go to Templates. Perfect. Okay? So now, let's go ahead and start a new WoodCam project. Try that out. So if I go to WoodCam, choose my AccuRouter, and if I go here, pardon me, load my nest. Let's flip the nest. That's perfect. Say OK. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and try and create a sketch line, and let's see what happens. You notice now that my sketch lines are quite big. So for example, maybe I wanted to have a sketch line hooked right there, and I want to have one hooked right here and right there as well. Okay? And the reason maybe that I want to do that is so that I can easily create my construction geometry. So I can switch here to a thicker line style, and I can come here and trace down that, because maybe this is the path I want to take, right? Maybe you want to actually have a sketch line up here to trim this up to, whatever. You can trim it after the fact too. We can say trim that to this, why not? And trim this here to that. So now we have our exact profile we want. From there, we'll go ahead and offset that, maybe an inch. Okay? And that offset profile is the profile that we're going to actually cut away. Now the next portion of this video is going to show you how to create your process, which I think you know how to do already, but we're going to create a process, and we're going to set that process so that we're centerline cutting directly on this profile without using any cutter comp whatsoever. We're going to set our feeds and speeds to what we want them to be, and then I'll show you how to apply a process on a profile. Okay? So let's get started. Let's go down to here. We'll go to Process, Create, and I'm going to go up here. Let's see, I'm going to minimize hole. I'm going to go to 2D milling. I'll create a new process, and I'm going to call it My Scrap. Okay? Now we'll take my scrap, double click to edit, and let's go find contouring. Okay, so we're going to go to contouring, and you can choose any of these, it's irrelevant. And we're going to create a finishing. Okay? So first thing we want to do, there's really nothing to do in this section. So we want to force a tool. We want our tool to be 1/2 inch. Right? Tool type we'll force as well. We'll choose our tool type to be just a slot mill. This way it'll grab the correct tool out of your tool changer for you. From there, we want our spindle speed. If no, you don't need spindle speed on your machine. We want our feed rate. I think you said of 350. And then we set our operation. Okay? And I'm going to sort the parameters to find what I'm looking for a little bit easier here. For example, we're going to go down here. We're going to make sure that's 0. That's 0. Cutter compensation, we're going to say is no. Compensation method, we're going to set back to original profile. This is how you centerline cut something. Okay. From there, you can go through here and set the lead-in type you want, the lead-out type you want, all of that fun, happy stuff. Okay. But if we just say OK here now, and OK, now we can go and test this process. And here's how this works. We're going to go to the CAM machining section. Okay, and from here we're going to go up to the milling pull-down menu and go to processes and choose process on a profile. We're going to go find our process called my scrap, say OK, and we're going to select this profile. Material side isn't going to matter really on this because we're centerline cutting, so we can just say OK. For the reference altitude, we can choose any of the faces here if we want, or we can just click in here and hit enter for 0. And like that, we have our toolpath. And if we take a look, let's turn this off, run a simulation. You can see we're centerline cutting that, and away you go. So hopefully this will give you the idea. You can see I didn't set any lead-ins, but hopefully this will give you the idea of how to set up and machine your scrap off. So you set up your process, you create your profile here, and you just apply that machining process to that profile.